What would you do if your own brother, your blood, suddenly decided to erase you and your children from your family's legacy? Imagine building your life under the shadow of a royal crown, believing that, no matter what, you would always have a place in the lineage, always remain part of the heritage that defined generations. And then, overnight, it's gone. That's exactly what has allegedly unfolded in the House of Windsor. Prince William, on his 43rd birthday, is said to have stunned not just his brother, Prince Harry, but the entire royal institution by making a move so shocking, so final, that even seasoned royal insiders can barely believe it. He changed the will. Not just any will. The future royal inheritance plans, the very framework of who carries what, who owns what, and, most importantly, who is remembered as part of the legacy. And in this decision, Harry and his children have been cut out completely, left with nothing. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Pause for a moment and think about that. This isn't a squabble about titles or whether Meghan gets to wear a tiara. This isn't about seating charts at coronations or petty arguments about protocol. No, this is about legacy, power, and the monarchy's most sacred principle, inheritance. To strip Harry and his family away from that is more than a legal decision. It's a declaration, a statement, a line carved deep into the history of the British monarchy. And it leaves us with one burning question. Why now? Prince William, the future king, has allegedly made it clear in private conversations. If you leave the family, you leave the legacy. Those words echo like thunder across palace walls. Sharp, unforgiving, almost cruel. But what lies behind them? Was this a decision driven by cold calculation, by loyalty to the crown above all else? Or was it born from a place of deep personal betrayal, resentment that has been boiling for years, now spilling out in one decisive stroke? Let's rewind the clock for a moment. Because this story doesn't start today. It starts years ago, when Harry and Meghan first stepped down from royal duties. The moment they walked away, they weren't just leaving behind Buckingham Palace's rules and suffocating traditions. They were leaving behind the very fabric that held the family together. Or at least, that's how William saw it. To him, monarchy isn't a choice, it's an obligation. A lifelong contract sealed at birth. So when his brother turned his back on that, perhaps in William's eyes, he turned his back on everything. And here's where it gets fascinating. For years, the royal family has tried to project an image of stability. That despite scandals, divorces, and explosive interviews, the core of the monarchy would remain intact. But William's move reveals the cracks are deeper than ever. It tells us that forgiveness may no longer be an option, and reconciliation is slipping further away. Now, let's picture the scene. Behind palace doors, far from the cameras, far from the carefully crafted royal smiles, William sits with his advisors. Documents are drawn up. Lines are struck through. Names removed. Assets reassigned. It's almost cinematic, the kind of drama you'd expect in a Shakespearean tragedy rather than a 21st century monarchy. Except this isn't fiction. This is blood, ink, and inheritance. And in that moment, Harry's name disappears from the royal legacy. Can you imagine what that must feel like? To see your entire birthright vanish, not just for you, but for your children? Archie and Lilibet, innocent and unknowing, wiped from the grand narrative of the crown. For Harry, this isn't just betrayal. It's a wound that cuts to the bone. Because no matter how far he's gone, no matter how loud his criticisms of the institution, deep down he must have believed that the legacy, their shared heritage, would always remain untouchable. But William shattered that illusion. And here's the part that should make you pause. This decision didn't just happen in a vacuum. William is 43 now, the age where legacy begins to matter more than ever, where every move is made not just as a son or a brother, but as a future king. This isn't the action of a sibling in a petty feud. It's the move of a monarch in training, someone already shaping the throne he will inherit. Now, let's be clear. A decision like this doesn't just hurt feelings. It reshapes the entire royal narrative. Think about it. The monarchy thrives on symbols. Crowns, titles, estates. They're more than material possessions. They're reminders of who belongs, who carries the bloodline forward. By cutting Harry and his children out, William isn't just punishing his brother. He's redefining the very idea of who counts as royal. So, the question we must ask is, What was the breaking point? Was it the Oprah interview, where Harry and Meghan hurled accusations of racism and cruelty at the family? Was it Harry's memoir, Spare, where William himself was painted in a damaging light? Or was it Meghan's refusal to conform, her rejection of palace rules, her relentless pursuit of independence that finally snapped William's patience? Because make no mistake, this isn't just about Harry leaving. This is about Meghan, too. Insiders suggest William has long believed Meghan encouraged Harry to walk away, that she was the catalyst, the driving force behind his defiance. And if that's true, then cutting off Harry's line is also William's way of shutting the door on Meghan forever. No titles, no inheritance, no future in the crown. For William, it seems the Sussex story ends here. But hold on, doesn't this move come with risks? Doesn't it risk deepening the public divide, fueling the exact narrative Harry and Meghan thrive on? That they are victims of a cruel and unyielding institution? Absolutely. And maybe that's the irony. William's decisive cut may strengthen Harry and Meghan's hand in America, where their brand has been built on their estrangement. But within the monarchy, William's message is unshakable. Loyalty comes at a price. Think about how audiences around the world see this. Some will say William is cold, heartless, cruel even. Others will argue he's pragmatic, decisive, willing to do what it takes to preserve the monarchy's core. Which side are you on? Do you see this as an act of strength or an act of betrayal? And here's another twist. This decision isn't just about today. It's about tomorrow. About the crown that will one day sit on William's head and the legacy that will be passed to George, Charlotte, and Louis. This isn't simply cutting Harry out. It's tightening the circle around William's own children, ensuring that the wealth, titles, and heritage remain firmly with them. In one stroke, William has both punished Harry and protected his own. Now, imagine Meghan's reaction. The news hits California. A phone call, a message, the words sink in. Can you picture her fury? Her disbelief? She has fought for recognition, for her children's place in history. And now, William has allegedly ripped it away. For Meghan, this isn't just personal, it's war. But what does this mean for Harry? The boy who once called William his best mate, his number one ally, now finds himself erased from the legacy they were both born into. Betrayed not by a stranger, not by a distant relative, but by his brother. The same brother who once held his hand at Diana's funeral, who once walked with him through grief, now standing on the opposite side of an unbridgeable chasm. Let me ask you, if this were your brother, would you ever forgive him? Could you? Because this isn't the kind of wound that heals with time. This is permanent, etched in ink, locked into the future of the crown. William's alleged decision will ripple across generations, altering the shape of the monarchy long after both brothers are gone. And yet, we can't help but wonder, was this William's choice alone? Or was there pressure from higher up, whispers from advisors, or even a silent nod from King Charles himself? Could it be that this wasn't just William's will, but a coordinated strike to finally cut Harry adrift once and for all? One thing is certain, this isn't the end of the story. In fact, it's only the beginning. Because Harry and Meghan are not the kind of people to quietly accept defeat. They will respond. They will fight. And when they do, the fallout could shake Buckingham Palace to its core. But before we get there, we have to peel back the layers of how royal wills have shaped power and destiny for centuries. Because to understand why William's move is so devastating, you have to understand what inheritance means in the House of Windsor. And trust me, it's not just about money. It's about identity, loyalty, and survival. And what comes next will reveal secrets that no one in the royal family wanted you to hear. Because the truth is, this isn't just a story of brothers divided. It's a battle for the future of the monarchy itself. But what happened inside those palace walls on William's 43rd birthday that pushed him to make the most ruthless decision of his life? That's where our story truly begins. Birthdays are supposed to be moments of joy, a chance to celebrate life, family, and milestones. For Prince William, his 43rd birthday should have been just that, a quiet, dignified event surrounded by close family and his loyal circle of friends. But this was no ordinary birthday. This was the day William allegedly made the most decisive and controversial choice of his life, a choice that would ripple through the House of Windsor and leave Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in tears. The world saw the polished photographs, of course, William smiling with Catherine, the kids beaming in carefully staged portraits that the palace released to the public. A family man, a future king, the perfect picture. But behind those smiles was a storm. Because on this very day, William had signed papers that insiders claim rewrote the future of the monarchy and erased his younger brother's line from its inheritance. Think about the irony. 43 years old, an age where most men reflect on stability, on providing for their children, on solidifying their future. William, too, was reflecting. But his reflection took a darker turn. He wasn't just thinking about George, Charlotte, and Louis. He was thinking about Harry. About the wounds that had never healed. About the insults, the accusations, the betrayals that had piled up for years. And somewhere in the middle of that reflection came a decision. If Harry was no longer loyal to the crown, then Harry would no longer benefit from it. Let's pause there. Because this isn't just about a will or a legal document. This is about symbolism. William didn't need to make a decision like this on his birthday. But he chose to. Why? Because it sent a message. A clear, unshakable declaration to his family, to his advisors, and maybe most of all to Harry himself. The time for second chances is over. Can you imagine being in that room? The papers on the table. Advisors with tight expressions, knowing the magnitude of what's about to happen. William leaning forward, pen in hand, the weight of centuries on his shoulders. And then, his signature. A single stroke of ink that cut his brother off from a future once guaranteed by blood. It's chilling, isn't it? And here's the twist that makes this story even more fascinating. William's 43rd birthday wasn't just any milestone. In royal tradition, turning 40s marks the transition from young heir to seasoned statesman. At 43, William is now solidly in that zone where every move is scrutinized as preparing for the throne. The crown is no longer some distant symbol, it's a looming reality. His decisions are no longer personal, they are national. Every action is weighed not just as William the man, but William the king in waiting. And this birthday gift to himself, a ruthless rewriting of the future, was his way of proving he's ready to make hard choices. Now, picture the reaction when word of this decision began to spread inside the royal inner circle. Gasps. Shock. Even for a family accustomed to scandals and betrayals, this one hit differently. Why? Because it wasn't reactive. It wasn't a slip of the tongue in an interview or an emotional outburst. It was cold, calculated, a planned, deliberate action designed to leave no doubt about where William stands. Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet, gone from the legacy. Ask yourself this. Was this decision truly William's alone? Or was it part of a wider palace strategy? After all, inheritance in the royal family isn't just about wealth. It's about controlling the narrative. By stripping Harry and his children of their future stake, William also strips them of leverage. No more dangling titles. No more claims of being sidelined heirs. It reduces Harry from a royal player to a royal outsider, permanently. And yet, isn't there something deeply personal in this timing? William could have made this change quietly at any point. But to do it on his birthday, doesn't that suggest it was also emotional? Almost like a gift to himself, a release from years of frustration, a way to reclaim control from a brother who had caused him so much public pain? Because let's not forget what Harry has done in William's eyes. The Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the memoir. Each time, William found himself painted as cold, harsh, even violent. The brother who once walked shoulder to shoulder with Harry behind Diana's coffin was now cast as the enemy. And William, a man known for his self-control, must have felt his patience reach its breaking point. On his 43rd birthday, he finally acted. And yet, as dramatic as this moment was, there's another layer to consider. The royal family thrives on appearances. They will never admit publicly that such a decision has been made. There will be no announcements, no official documents for the public eye. But behind the curtain, insiders whisper that the move has been set in motion. And for Harry and Meghan, discovering this, whether by a leak, a phone call, or a subtle signal from someone within, must have felt like being stabbed in the back by the one person Harry once thought he could trust. Can you imagine that moment? Harry in Montecito, Meghan at his side, the phone buzzing with the news. Their faces falling as the reality sets in. Not just rejected socially, not just criticized publicly, but erased from the royal legacy itself. How do you recover from that? How do you explain it to your children when they grow older and ask why their names don't appear in the inheritance of the crown. And here's the ultimate irony. This isn't the first time a royal birthday has been tied to seismic family decisions. History is littered with them. Edward VIII's abdication reshaped the monarchy. The Queen Mother's birthday was often marked with political maneuvering. Birthdays in the House of Windsor aren't just cake and candles, they're turning points. And William, it seems, has followed that tradition in the most ruthless way imaginable. Now, let's shift perspective for a moment. What must Catherine, Princess of Wales, have thought about this? Was she in the room when William made his choice? Was she supportive? Did she encourage it, seeing it as necessary to protect their children's future? Or did she worry that such a drastic move would only deepen the wounds between the brothers? Catherine has often been seen as the peacemaker, the steady hand between William and Harry. But perhaps even she has reached a point of no return. Perhaps, like William, she believes the Sussex drama has gone too far to ever heal. And what about King Charles? Can you imagine his position? A father watching one son erase the other from the family legacy. Did he nod in approval, believing it was time to secure the crown's future with William's line alone? Or did he quietly despair, knowing this meant the rift between his sons had become permanent? One thing is certain. William's 43rd birthday will be remembered not for its public photographs, but for its private decisions. Decisions that have already sent shockwaves through the family and will continue to ripple for years to come. Because this wasn't just a birthday. It was a declaration of war, and the world has only begun to see the fallout. But what exactly is a royal will? And why does William's alleged change carry so much weight? Not just for his brother, but for the very survival of the monarchy itself. That's where our story turns next. When most people think of a will, they picture a simple document. A few lines about who gets the house, who gets the car, maybe who inherits the family jewelry. But in the royal family, a will is not just about property. It's about power. It's about history. It's about the very identity of the monarchy. Every stroke of ink on a royal will is like a chapter being written in the story of Britain itself. And when William allegedly moved to change his, excluding Harry and his children, he wasn't just shifting money around. He was drawing on centuries of tradition that has both preserved and destroyed kings, queens, and entire family lines. So let's pull back the curtain on what a royal will really means. Because here's the truth. Royal wills are shrouded in secrecy. Unlike ordinary citizens, whose wills are often made public after their death, royal wills are sealed, locked away in the deepest vaults of the High Court. The Queen's will, Prince Philip's will, hidden for decades. The secrecy itself adds to the mystique, creating an almost mythic aura around what's inside. And that secrecy is precisely why changes to a royal will carry such weight. No one sees the fine print, but the effects are felt for generations. Ask yourself, why do you think William would allegedly use this ancient tool as his weapon of choice against Harry? The answer is simple. Because nothing strikes harder in royal life than inheritance. Titles can be stripped, duties can be reassigned, but inheritance, it cuts to the bone. It decides who carries the legacy and who fades into history. Now, history is filled with examples of how inheritance shaped the monarchy. Look back to Henry VIII. His obsession with heirs reshaped the entire English church. The lack of a clear male successor created chaos that rippled for centuries. Fast forward to Edward VIII's abdication in 1936. When he chose love over crown, the inheritance of the throne shifted permanently to his brother's line, paving the way for Queen Elizabeth II. One decision, one will, one shift in legacy, and the entire future of Britain was altered. And then, of course, there's Princess Diana. Her will became one of the most scrutinized royal documents in modern history. She left not only financial provisions for William and Harry, but also deeply personal items, jewelry, letters, photographs. These weren't just assets. They were pieces of her soul, intended to remind her sons of her love long after she was gone. But even Diana's will was contested, altered, reinterpreted by the powers that be. It shows us something important. In the monarchy, even the dead don't always get the final word. So, when William allegedly says, "If you leave the family, you leave the legacy," he isn't just throwing out a line in anger. He's tapping into this centuries-old truth. Inheritance is loyalty. Break from the family, and the inheritance breaks from you. Let's pause for a moment. Picture this. Harry, once the beloved spare, the cheeky, daring prince adored by millions, suddenly finding himself erased from that long line of royal inheritance. Think of how powerful that symbol is. It tells the world, Harry is no longer part of us. His children will not carry this crown. The future belongs to William's line, and William's line alone. It's brutal, but it's also effective, because the monarchy is about survival. And survival, in their world, means control. Control of property, control of symbols, control of legacy. A royal will is not just a financial document. It's the crown's ultimate weapon. But let's not forget the secrecy again. We, the public, are never meant to see these documents. Which means the whispers, the rumors, the leaks carry even more power. Just think of the irony. Harry, who has spent years exposing royal secrets, writing books, filming Netflix specials, now finds himself on the receiving end of a secret so devastating it could eclipse all his own revelations. The silence of a will, locked away in vaults, speaks louder than all of Harry's words. And here's another angle. Inheritance isn't just about estates or jewelry. It's about titles, too. The way those titles pass, or don't pass, down the line can redefine a family's place in history. Take Archie and Lilibet, for example. Meghan has fought fiercely for their recognition as prince and princess. She wanted them to have their titles, their place in the story. But what happens if William, in his future power as king, has already drawn a line through their names? What if their royal inheritance is gone before they even reach adulthood? It's more than a slight, it's an erasure, a stripping of identity. And this is where William's alleged move becomes Shakespearean. Imagine the drama. The older brother, the heir, tightening his grip on the crown, while the younger brother, the spare, is cast adrift, his children denied their place. Doesn't it feel like a play written centuries ago, now unfolding before our very eyes? But here's where things get even more intriguing. Some historians argue that the monarchy has always survived by pruning its branches, cutting off those who threaten the stability of the core. Think of the Duke of Windsor. Think of Princess Margaret, overshadowed by the Queen. Even Harry and Meghan now, outliers, living under the Californian sun. William's decision, then, isn't unprecedented. It's consistent with royal survival tactics. It's ruthless, but it works. Now, let's ask a question that cuts to the heart of this. Is William protecting his legacy, or is he rewriting history? Because in excluding Harry, he's not just punishing a brother. He's redrawing the royal family tree. Future generations may look back and see William's line as the unbroken thread, while Harry's disappears into obscurity. Is that justice? Is that fair? Or is that monarchy at its coldest and most efficient? And yet, here lies the contradiction. The monarchy thrives on unity, on the image of family. But this decision screams division. How long can the crown balance that contradiction? Can William really present himself as a unifying king while secretly cutting off his brother? Or will the truth eventually spill out, feeding the very drama he seeks to contain? Because remember this, the public adores scandal. And the moment whispers about inheritance hit the tabloids, the headlines write themselves. Harry cut off. Meghan's children denied. William's ruthless strike. The story spreads like wildfire. And while William may believe he's securing the monarchy, he may also be fueling its biggest crisis yet. But perhaps that's the gamble he's willing to take. Perhaps he knows the damage of keeping Harry in the fold is greater than the fallout of cutting him off. Perhaps, in his mind, history will vindicate him. And so we return to that phrase. If you leave the family, you leave the legacy. Cold, final, unforgiving. But isn't that the essence of monarchy? A system that survives not through mercy, but through discipline. A system that values loyalty above love. So, as William's pen scratched across those papers, as names were allegedly erased, as futures were rewritten, he wasn't just making a personal choice. He was stepping into the tradition of centuries. A tradition that has preserved the monarchy through wars, scandals, divorces, and betrayals. But this tradition comes with a cost. And the cost, this time, is Harry. And here's the haunting thought. What if William isn't done? What if this is only the first of many moves, each designed to lock Harry further out of the story? Because if the will is just the beginning, then the real drama is yet to come. And as we move forward, We'll see exactly how Harry and Meghan's fallout with the monarchy gave William the ammunition to make this decision, and why the Sussexes may never recover from it. But first, let's look at the emotional heart of this saga. The moment Harry and Meghan realized that by leaving the institution, they weren't just leaving duties behind. They were leaving everything. They thought they were walking away to freedom. In their minds, stepping back from royal duties was liberation, a chance to raise their children in California sunshine, free from the constraints of protocol, free from the harsh glare of the British tabloids, free from the suffocating grip of the firm. But what Harry and Meghan never anticipated, or perhaps underestimated, was the cost. Because freedom came with a price. And that price, as Prince William has now allegedly proven, was legacy itself. Let's rewind to 2020, the year of Megxit. The announcement stunned the world. Harry and Meghan declaring they would step back from their roles as senior working royals. It was packaged as modern, bold, and forward-thinking. But to William, insiders say, it was betrayal. A knife in the back at the worst possible time. Think about it. The monarchy was already in transition. Queen Elizabeth II was aging, her health fragile. Prince Philip was declining. The spotlight was shifting more and more onto the younger royals, William, Catherine, Harry, and Meghan. They were supposed to be the future. The Fab Four. That picture-perfect team who could carry the monarchy into the 21st century with charm, relatability, and star power. And then, suddenly, half of that future walked away. To William, it wasn't just a family argument. It was abandonment. He saw Harry as turning his back on duty, on the crown, and on him personally. He saw Meghan as the architect of it all, the outsider who came in, disrupted the balance, and convinced his brother to defect. And the fallout was immediate. Headlines blared across Britain, Harry quits. Meghan and Harry stepped down. Crisis for the crown. For the public, it was scandal. For William, it was personal. Because let's not forget, Harry wasn't just any brother. He was the spare, the safety net, the one who could take on duties, share the burden, and support William when the crown eventually passed down. With Harry gone, William's load doubled. Every event, every appearance, every speech, more pressure, more responsibility. And in William's eyes, Harry had left him to carry it all alone. Now, think about Harry's perspective. He believed he was suffocating inside the institution. He felt trapped, scrutinized, and unsupported, particularly when it came to Meghan's struggles. In interviews, he painted a picture of a palace unwilling to protect them, unwilling to shield Meghan from relentless tabloid attacks. He believed leaving was the only way to save his marriage, his family, his sanity. But here's the contradiction that makes this story so powerful. Harry left to gain freedom, but in doing so, he lost the very things that defined his identity. His roles, his patronages, his military honors, his position in the family. And now, thanks to William's alleged move, he's lost his legacy too. Let's ask the big question. Could Harry and Meghan have played it differently? Could they have stepped back in a quieter way, without interviews, without books, without public criticism? Could they have found a middle ground, still tied to the monarchy but less constrained by it? Maybe. But Meghan, with her Hollywood background and independent streak, never seemed built for half measures. It was all or nothing. And Harry, deeply in love and fiercely protective, followed her lead. And so, the fallout grew. The Oprah interview in 2021 was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Accusations of racism, claims of neglect, revelations about mental health struggles. For the public, it was explosive television. For William, it was humiliation. To have his family attacked on global television by his own brother, it crossed a line. A line that perhaps William vowed never to forgive. And then came Harry's memoir. Spare. Page after page, detail after detail, painting William in the harshest light. Stories of fights, arguments, physical altercations. William cast as cold, domineering, even aggressive. For millions of readers, it was juicy drama. For William, it was betrayal, again. His private life, his role as a brother, exposed for profit. Is it any wonder, then, that William allegedly decided, enough? Think about how deep this wound runs. Harry once called William his best mate, his closest ally. In their younger years, they were inseparable. From Eton to Sandhurst, from royal tours to charity work, they were a team. They walked side by side at their mother's funeral, bound by grief in a way no one else could understand. For William to now erase Harry from the royal legacy, it's not just cold. It's tragic. And Meghan, well, she has her own scars in this fallout. She thought she had married into a family, only to discover she had married into an institution. She believed she and Harry could modernize the monarchy, only to be accused of tearing it down. Now, she finds herself painted as the villain in William's story, the woman who took Harry away and left the monarchy fractured. And William's alleged changes? They cement that narrative. To the crown, Meghan and her children are outsiders. Always were. Always will be. But here's where the emotional sting is sharpest. Archie and Lilibet. They didn't choose this. They are innocent. Yet they are paying the price for their parents' decisions. By cutting them out of inheritance, William has made a statement, not just to Harry, but to the world. The Sussex children may carry royal blood, but they will not carry the crown's legacy. Imagine the impact of that realization when they grow older. Imagine the questions they'll ask their parents. Why are we not included? Why don't we have what George, Charlotte, and Louis have? And for Harry, as a father, isn't that the ultimate heartbreak? To see his children treated differently, not because of who they are, but because of the choices he made? That pain must run deeper than any insult hurled at him personally. Let's not forget, this fallout isn't confined to private family dinners. It's global. The press feeds on it. Every headline, every whisper, every insider leak keeps the drama alive. Harry and Meghan, once celebrated as symbols of modern royalty, are now locked in a narrative of estrangement and exclusion. And William's alleged decision only deepens the divide. But here's the irony. While William may think he's securing the monarchy, he may also be fueling the very story Harry and Meghan thrive on. Because what do they sell? What do they build their brand on? The idea of being rejected, mistreated, wronged by the crown. By cutting them off, William may have given them their strongest narrative yet. The royal family is heartless, unforgiving, ruthless. And the public? They're divided. Some see William as strong, decisive, protecting the crown. Others see him as cruel, punishing his own brother beyond reason. The debate itself keeps the monarchy in the spotlight, but not always in the way they want. So what's the truth? Did Harry and Meghan leave the family? Or did the family leave them? Did they walk away from legacy? Or was legacy ripped from them? The fallout of Megxit created a fracture. William's decision turned it into a canyon, a gap so wide it may never be bridged. And at the center of that canyon are two brothers who once swore they'd always have each other's backs, now staring at each other across an unbridgeable divide. And as painful as this fallout is, it all comes back to one phrase, one quote that cuts deeper than any insult. If you leave the family, you leave the legacy. Words William allegedly spoke, words Harry and Meghan can never unhear. But what exactly did William mean when he said that? What was the context, the emotion, the fire behind those words? That's where we go next. If you leave the family, you leave the legacy. 7 words. Cold, brutal, final. And yet, those words, allegedly spoken by Prince William, now hang like a thundercloud over the royal family. They are not just a quote, they are a verdict. A sentence delivered not in a courtroom, but in the quiet corridors of Buckingham Palace and whispered in hushed tones across the world. But what do those words really mean? And why have they hit Harry and Meghan like a dagger to the heart? Let's break it down. To William, the monarchy is not a job. It's not even just a duty. It's his birthright. From the moment he took his first breath, his life was mapped out. One day, the crown would be his. Everything he does, every handshake, every smile, every carefully measured word, is in service of that destiny. Loyalty to the crown isn't optional. It's absolute. And for William, that loyalty extends not just to him, but to everyone tied to the royal family. So when Harry and Meghan walked away in 2020, William didn't just see a brother choosing a new path. He saw a betrayal. He saw them rejecting not just the crown, but the very essence of what it means to be a Windsor. To William, if you turn your back on the family, then you turn your back on everything the family gives you: titles, privileges, protection, legacy. Hence the words, if you leave the family, you leave the legacy. It's harsh, but is it really surprising? Think of William's position. For years, he's had to watch Harry publicly criticize the monarchy, question its values, accuse it of racism, and paint it as an outdated, cruel institution. Imagine being William, next in line to the throne, and hearing your brother describe the very crown you will inherit as toxic, archaic, even harmful. Wouldn't you see that as an attack not just on the institution, but on your own identity? And yet, the power of this quote lies not just in what William meant, but in how Harry and Meghan heard it. For Harry, those words confirmed his deepest fears, that by leaving, he had truly severed ties with his family in a way that could never be repaired. That no matter what, he and his children would forever be outsiders. It wasn't just about money or estates, it was about belonging. And those words stripped him of that belonging forever. For Meghan, the words stung even deeper. From the moment she entered the royal family, she felt like an outsider. She hoped marriage, motherhood, and dedication to service would make her part of the legacy. Instead, William's alleged words slammed the door shut. To her, it wasn't just exclusion, it was rejection. Rejection of her children, rejection of everything she had fought for since the moment she said, "I do." But here's the deeper irony. William's words weren't just directed at Harry and Meghan. They were directed at the world. Think about it. This was a statement of principle, a warning shot, a message to anyone watching, family, advisors, even the public. He was drawing a line in the sand. Loyalty is rewarded, disloyalty is punished. If you want the crown's legacy, you have to serve the crown. No exceptions. And that's what makes the quote explosive. Because it takes a private family dispute and elevates it into a constitutional principle. It's no longer just about brothers fighting. It's about the survival of the monarchy itself. Let's pause here and ask a question. Do you think William was cruel? Or was he simply being pragmatic? Because history is full of moments where royals made ruthless choices for survival. Henry VIII erased wives from history when they no longer served him. Elizabeth I imprisoned her own cousin. The monarchy has always thrived on cold calculation. William's words may sound heartless, but perhaps in his mind, they were necessary. But let's not pretend these words exist in a vacuum. They came after years of tension, after the Oprah interview, after the memoir, after the endless headlines about racism, feuds, and betrayals. These words weren't just pulled from the air. They were the culmination of frustration, anger, and perhaps even heartbreak. Because remember, William loved Harry once. He wasn't just his brother, he was his best friend. To go from that bond to saying, "If you leave the legacy." It shows us the depth of the rift. It shows us that this isn't just political. It's personal. And the consequences? They're devastating. Because once words like that are spoken, they can't be unsaid. They become etched in memory, replayed over and over like a cruel echo. For Harry and Meghan, those words confirmed their worst nightmare. They are cut off, excluded, erased. For William, they cemented his position. The crown comes before the bond of brotherhood. But let's push deeper. What does legacy actually mean in this context? It's more than estates and titles. Legacy is about being remembered. It's about having your name tied to the crown for centuries. By excluding Harry, William isn't just denying him money. He's denying him memory. He's saying, your children will not carry this forward. You will not be written into the story we tell. That's the cruelest cut of all. Because money fades, houses crumble. But legacy? Legacy is forever. Now imagine the whispers within the palace after this line surfaced. Advisors nodding in approval. Finally, William showing strength. Others shaking their heads, worried that the harshness would backfire. The monarchy thrives on control, but it also thrives on image. And William's words, while powerful, risk painting him as ruthless. Can a future king afford to look merciless? Or is that precisely what the monarchy needs in this fragile era? And what about King Charles? Did he hear those words with pride, his son showing the firmness needed for kingship? Or did he hear them with sorrow? Two brothers now divided beyond repair? Charles himself has always been torn between love and duty. Perhaps hearing William's words reminded him of his own choices, his own cold calculations. And yet, as shocking as this line is, it also reveals something else. William is already thinking like a king. He's not speaking as a brother anymore. He's speaking as an heir, as someone who knows that the crown cannot bend, even for blood. That's why the line matters. Because it marks the moment William stopped being just a sibling and started being a monarch in waiting. But here's the question for you. Do you think Harry and Meghan will accept this? Do you think they'll quietly step aside, let their legacy vanish, let their children be excluded? Or do you think they'll fight back, louder, stronger, more determined than ever? Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. When people are cut off from power, they don't disappear quietly. They fight. And Harry and Meghan are nothing if not fighters. So perhaps William's words, while meant to seal their fate, may actually ignite the biggest battle yet. A battle not just between brothers, but between two visions of royalty. William's vision, loyalty, discipline, legacy through service. Harry and Meghan's vision, independence, freedom, legacy through reinvention. Only one vision can win, and the outcome could decide the future of the monarchy. But here's the twist. William didn't deliver those words in isolation. Insiders whisper that they were spoken in a private meeting, behind closed doors, where other shocking revelations also surfaced. And one of those revelations could explain why William finally lost patience, and why Harry may never recover from the betrayal. And what happened in those secret meetings is even more explosive than the quote itself. Every royal decision has two faces: the polished announcement the world sees, and the private, smoke-filled rooms where the true decisions are made. William's alleged choice to alter inheritance plans, effectively cutting Harry and his children out of the royal legacy, was no exception. It didn't come from a birthday whim or a moment of frustration. It was calculated. It was discussed. It was signed, sealed, and locked in after a series of secret meetings that most of the public will never hear about. But what really happened behind those closed doors? Who was in the room? And what words were exchanged that pushed William over the edge? Let's set the scene. A quiet, oak-paneled chamber within Kensington Palace. Heavy drapes drawn to keep prying eyes away. Papers laid neatly on a mahogany table. Advisors seated in a half-circle, their faces grave, their voices low. In the center, Prince William, the future king, his expression set, his pen poised. Insiders suggest these meetings began weeks before his 43rd birthday. They weren't spontaneous. They were scheduled, deliberate, and confidential. No cameras, no leaks, just William and a handful of his most trusted allies. And that's telling, isn't it? Because it means this wasn't an emotional outburst. It was a strategy, a decision carefully weighed, debated, and, ultimately, finalized. Who were the players in this clandestine gathering? First, the legal advisors. These are the unsung architects of the monarchy, the men and women who ensure every decision is watertight, every move within the boundaries of law and tradition. They know the history. They know the precedents. They know exactly what levers can be pulled to safeguard the crown's future. William doesn't move without them. Then, the financial guardians of the royal estates. The keepers of the Duchy of Cornwall, the Duchy of Lancaster, and other vast royal assets. They were there not just to discuss inheritance, but to ensure that William's children's future remained insulated and secure. If money is power, then these advisors hold the keys to the vault. And, of course, the courtiers, the palace insiders who have served multiple generations. They are the eyes and ears of the monarchy. They know who whispers what in the corridors, who can be trusted, and who cannot. Their role? To advise William not just on the legality of his choice, but on its optics, on how the decision would play with the press, the public, and, most importantly, the monarchy's fragile reputation. But perhaps the most surprising presence, according to whispers, was Catherine. Yes, Kate, Princess of Wales. Not as a passive bystander, but as a voice. Some insiders believe she was there in those meetings, calm, steady, speaking softly but firmly about the importance of protecting their 3 children. Catherine has always been the picture of diplomacy. But in this moment, her loyalty wasn't divided. It was firmly with her husband and their future. If the Sussex drama threatened her family's stability, she was ready to stand beside William in cutting them off completely. Now imagine the atmosphere in that room. Tension thick enough to choke on. Advisors laying out options. Include Harry in a reduced way? Offer conditional inheritance if he mends ties, or sever the link entirely. Each choice carried risks. Each choice carried consequences. But William, it's said, barely hesitated. He wanted finality. No half measures. No compromises. And that's when the line was allegedly spoken again. If you leave the family, you leave the legacy. A silence followed. Those in the room knew it was more than words. It was a ruling, a royal decree in all but name. Advisors scribbled notes. Papers were adjusted. And in that moment, Harry's fate was sealed. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Sources hint at one shocking name that appeared in those meetings, an outsider whose presence startled even the most seasoned courtiers. No, it wasn't Charles. Not Camilla. It was someone connected to Diana's legacy. A confidant, perhaps, who knew what she wanted for her sons. Their input was said to sway the emotional tone of the discussion, reminding William that his mother had once spoken of fairness, unity, and love between her boys. And yet, William, steeled by years of hurt, chose to do the opposite. To divide, not unite. To erase, not preserve. Was it cruel? Was it pragmatic? You decide. Now let's picture what happened after the meeting. The papers were secured. The decision locked away in files never meant for the public. And then, the palace carried on as though nothing had happened. Public smiles, garden parties, polished photographs. But beneath the surface, something irreversible had shifted. Imagine Harry learning of this, not from William directly, but from a whisper, a call, perhaps even a sympathetic staff member who couldn't keep the secret. Can you picture the fury? The disbelief? The gut punch of betrayal? This wasn't a fight in the press. This wasn't a petty argument about seating at an event. This was erasure. A cold, bureaucratic decision signed behind closed doors that stripped him and his children of their place in the royal legacy. And Meghan, oh Meghan, to her, this wasn't just exclusion. It was confirmation of everything she'd been saying all along. That the institution is heartless. That it will never fully accept her or her children. That William, the man she once smiled beside at royal engagements, was now the architect of her family's rejection. Imagine her fury as the reality sank in. Imagine the conversations late at night in Montecito, as Harry paced and Meghan tried to process the unthinkable. But here's the cruelest irony. Those secret meetings didn't just erase Harry. They strengthened William. Because every word spoken behind those doors was about fortifying the monarchy around William and his children. Protecting George, Charlotte, and Louis. Shielding them from future disputes. Ensuring their inheritance was untouchable. William wasn't just cutting Harry out. He was tightening the circle around his own line. And yet, one can't help but wonder, did William consider the long-term fallout? Did anyone in that room raise the question, what happens when Harry and Meghan fight back? Because they will. They always do. And if they choose to go public, to expose the existence of these meetings, the monarchy could face a scandal unlike anything it's seen in decades. But maybe that's the point. Maybe William knows the risks, and he's prepared to face them. Maybe he's betting on silence, secrecy, and the public's eventual fatigue. After all, scandals come and go, but the monarchy remains. Still, secrecy can only last so long. And history tells us that behind every sealed royal door, eventually, a whisper escapes. Eventually, the truth trickles out. And when it does, the fallout could make the Oprah interview look tame. Because what happens when the world learns the full truth of what was decided in those secret meetings? That's where this story takes its darkest turn. When the whispers first reached Montecito, Meghan Markle's world seemed to freeze. A phone call, a message, a hushed warning from someone still loyal enough to Harry to pass along the devastating truth. Prince William had allegedly changed future inheritance plans, erasing Harry and his children from the royal legacy. For Meghan, it wasn't just shocking. It was humiliating. Here was the woman who had endured years of tabloid torment, who had been accused of everything from breaking royal traditions to masterminding the brothers' feud. She had weathered the firestorm believing, perhaps naively, that no matter how badly things fractured, the institution would never dare deny her children their rightful place in the royal story. And now, that fragile reassurance was gone. Let's picture her reaction. Meghan in her California home, perhaps holding Archie or watching Lilibet play. The phone rings. The words spill out. William has acted. He's drawn the line. Your children are out. Can you imagine her face in that moment? The sharp intake of breath, the stunned silence, then the disbelief turning into fury. Because for Meghan, this wasn't just about royal protocols or dusty traditions. It was personal. It was about her children. And nothing, stirs a mother's rage more than seeing her children excluded. Think back to everything Meghan has said publicly. In the Oprah interview, she spoke about wanting Archie to be safe, to have security, to be protected. She implied that decisions had been made behind palace doors that denied him those protections, allegedly due to questions of race. That moment alone rocked the monarchy. And now, with William's alleged inheritance cut, it's as if history repeated itself. Except this time, the rejection was permanent, sealed in ink. Imagine the conversations that followed that phone call. Meghan pacing through their Montecito kitchen, voice raised, questions firing. How could he do this? After everything. What about Archie? What about Lily? Does he not realize what this means for us? Harry, equally shaken, trying to calm her, but his own face tight with rage. Because Meghan's fury wasn't just about the inheritance. It was about the message that she and her children would never be considered true royals in William's world. And here's the irony. Meghan has always insisted she wanted independence, that she didn't need the crown's approval, didn't want to live within its rigid structures. Yet, the moment her children were allegedly cut off, the loss burned. Because independence is one thing, but rejection is another. Independence is chosen. Rejection is forced upon you. For Meghan, this decision confirmed what she had suspected since day one, that no matter what she did, she and her children would never belong. Not truly. And what do you think she did with that fury? Meghan is no stranger to strategy. She has built her brand on speaking her truth, on crafting narratives that captivate audiences across America and beyond. And this betrayal, was the perfect storm. Because the more the monarchy cut her down, the stronger her story became. The more powerful her outsider narrative grew. So what were her options? First, the media. Meghan knows the power of a headline. She could call in favors with sympathetic journalists, allow sources close to Meghan to leak details about her heartbreak. The headlines would write themselves. Meghan furious as William cuts Archie and Lilibet out of legacy. Sussex's betrayed again. Each story would chip away at William's carefully curated image of control and stability. Second, Hollywood. Meghan has powerful allies. Oprah, Tyler Perry, Gayle King. Allies who have platforms, influence, and audiences eager for royal drama. A carefully timed interview, a tearful revelation about what William allegedly said, and suddenly Meghan owns the narrative again. Third, legal angles. Meghan has never shied away from challenging institutions in court. Could she pursue legal avenues, questioning whether inheritance laws discriminate against her children? Could she expose royal wills to public scrutiny in ways never seen before? It's risky, but Meghan thrives on pushing boundaries. And then, there's Harry. For Meghan, this wasn't just about her. It was about reminding her husband that he made the right choice by leaving. See, she might say, this is who they are. This is what they've always been. You thought William was your ally, but look at what he's done to you and to our children. Her fury, then, becomes fuel. Fuel for Harry to stand firmer by her side. Fuel for both of them to dig deeper into their role as outsiders. But let's ask ourselves, does Meghan's fury help her or hurt her? Because for every supporter who sees her as a wronged mother fighting for her children, there are critics who see her as manipulative, using every royal slight to build her brand. William knows this. Perhaps that's why he acted in silence, behind closed doors. He knew Meghan's reaction would be fire, but maybe, in his mind, her fury only proves his point, that she and Harry cannot be trusted with legacy. And yet, Meghan's fury also humanizes her. Can anyone blame a mother for wanting her children to be treated equally? For wanting them to be part of their family's history? That raw emotion, when displayed at the right time, could turn global sympathy back in her favor. Now imagine the fallout within Montecito. Meghan calling her team, drafting statements, weighing her next move. Harry pacing, fists clenched, torn between rage at his brother and despair for his children. The Sussex team buzzing with ideas. Should we go public? Should we leak? Should we hold back and wait for the right moment? Because Meghan knows timing is everything. And if she chooses the right moment to unleash her fury, perhaps just before a major royal event, perhaps when William least expects it. Her words could overshadow the monarchy once again. But here's the emotional heart of it all. Meghan's fury isn't just about strategy. It's about heartbreak. Imagine looking at your children and realizing their cousins, George, Charlotte, and Louis, will inherit centuries of legacy, while yours will be written out of history. That contrast is brutal. That divide is permanent. And for Meghan, it must feel like a scar that will never heal. She might smile in public. She might speak calmly in interviews. But behind closed doors, the rage simmers. The disbelief festers. And the determination grows. Determination to fight back, to ensure her children are never forgotten, never erased. And that determination leads us to the next chapter of this saga. Because Meghan's fury is only half the story. The other half lies with the children themselves, Archie and Lilibet. Innocent, unaware, but at the center of a storm they never asked for. What does it mean for them to grow up knowing they were excluded? What does it mean for Harry, the father who must one day explain why his children's names don't appear in the inheritance of the crown? That's where we turn next. At the heart of this entire saga, beneath the politics, the betrayals, and the cold signatures of ink, lie two children, Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana. Innocent, blameless. And yet, their future has been altered by decisions made thousands of miles away, in oak-paneled rooms where they have no voice. Because if the whispers are true, William's alleged choice to rewrite inheritance plans doesn't just cut off Harry. It cuts off Archie and Lilibet too. And that changes everything. Let's pause and picture the contrast. On one side of the Atlantic, in the leafy grounds of Montecito, Archie and Lilibet are being raised in sunshine, with chickens in the backyard, their parents chasing Hollywood deals, surrounded by a life that, at least on the surface, looks ordinary. No palace walls, no bowing courtiers, no stifling tradition. On the other side, across the ocean, their cousins George, Charlotte, and Louis are being groomed for destiny. Every photograph is a symbol. Every public outing, a rehearsal for the crown. Their futures are locked in, protected, and celebrated. They are heirs. Archie and Lilibet, outsiders. Can you imagine growing up with that knowledge? Knowing that because of decisions your parents made, because of feuds you had no hand in, you've been erased from the family's most powerful inheritance? This is where the human cost of William's alleged decision becomes clear. Because children don't understand politics. They don't grasp the nuances of stepping back from royal duties. One day, Archie and Lilibet will simply ask, "Why don't we have what our cousins have? Why weren't we included?" And how will Harry answer? He might say, "We chose a different life." But children are perceptive. They'll know that isn't the full story. They'll see the photographs of George at royal ceremonies. They'll see Charlotte wearing heirloom jewels one day. They'll see Louis attending grand occasions. And they'll know, deep down, that they were cut out. Now, let's be honest. Some might argue that William is doing Archie and Lilibet a favor. After all, royal life is a gilded cage. The scrutiny is suffocating. The expectations are endless. By cutting them out, William could be sparing them from a lifetime of pressure. Freedom in America versus duty in Britain. Sunshine versus duty. Isn't that, in some ways, a gift? But here's the counterpoint. It's not about titles or money. It's about belonging. Every child wants to know where they come from, to understand their place in the family tree. And for Archie and Lilibet, being excluded doesn't just deny them wealth, it denies them identity. And let's not forget the symbolism of their names. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. Lilibet Diana, named after the Queen herself and their late grandmother Diana. Names tied to the heart of the monarchy. Names chosen to anchor them in royal history. And yet, those very names may now be erased from the legacy William seeks to protect. For Meghan, this must feel like the ultimate insult. She fought for her children's recognition. She pressed for them to be called prince and princess. She wanted them to have the security, the acknowledgement, the dignity she felt they deserved. And now, all of that has allegedly been stripped away. For her, it's not just about status, it's about respect. And for Harry, this cuts even deeper. Because he knows what it means to be the spare. He knows what it's like to grow up in the shadow of the heir. He knows the pain of being sidelined, of being defined not by who you are, but by who you aren't. And now, history is repeating itself with his children, except worse. Because at least Harry was part of the legacy. Archie and Lilibet, if William's decision stands, will be denied even that. Think of the emotional toll. Harry, once the cheeky younger brother, adored by the public, now has to look his children in the eye one day and explain why their names are absent from the inheritance of the crown. Can you imagine that conversation? The heaviness of it? The guilt? And let's consider the public perception. For many, this exclusion will feel cruel, punishing children for the decisions of their parents. Isn't that a step too far? The monarchy, already battling to remain relevant in a modern world, risks looking out of touch, heartless, even punitive. Because say what you will about Harry and Meghan, Archie and Lilibet didn't ask for any of this. They were born into it. And yet, the monarchy has precedent for this kind of exclusion. Look at history. The Duke of Windsor, Edward VIII, was forced to abdicate, and his descendants were forever cut out of the line of succession and inheritance. Princess Margaret's children were never fully embraced into the royal fold. The monarchy prunes its branches when it feels threatened. William's alleged move fits that ruthless tradition. But let's ask a question. What happens when Archie and Lilibet grow up in America, surrounded by media, Google searches, and endless documentaries about their family? They'll see the headlines. They'll read the stories. And they'll know. They'll know they were cast aside. And what then? Do they reject the monarchy altogether? Or do they try to reclaim their place? Because here's the twist. Exclusion can backfire. Sometimes, the outsiders become the most powerful voices.